Morning, everyone. Welcome back to the homestead. You got to check these out. This is pretty cool. Some of you may remember where we ran our pigs last year, and it was out in this area behind the house. It was an old blueberry patch and had a bunch of wild blueberries, and we wanted the pigs to clear them out. And toward the end of the year, we fed them some pumpkins. Well, Jackie went out there yesterday and found all these guys hanging out. They're not in the best of shape. It's really wet back there, and it wasn't optimal growing conditions for the pumpkins, but it's still kind of cool that the pumpkins we fed the pigs last fall they seeded for us, and then they ended up growing more pumpkins. In a previous video, I mentioned that one of the things we look for in our animal feed are probiotics. Today, I want to talk a little bit more about why we look for probiotics, what probiotics are, and go just a little bit more in depth on that. I'm going to get the chores done, and we'll stop to talk here and there. Right up front, though, big thanks to Purina for sponsoring this video. We'll talk a little bit more about Nature's Match and why we feed that to our pigs a little bit later on. So if you haven't heard of probiotics before, first off, I congratulate you for being one of the most isolated people on the face of the planet. In a nutshell, probiotics are living organisms that live in our gut and assist in the digestion of food. They can be bacteria, they can be yeasts, they can be essentially anything that lives inside of you that doesn't hurt you but actually aids in digestion. The most common one that people seem to recognize is lactobacillus. It's found very often in animals that digest milk. These probiotics live inside of our digestive systems, and when we take something in to eat that they also eat, they start to break that down and make the nutrients that are inside those foods more bioavailable to us. A lot of people will talk about fermenting their pig or chicken feed before they feed it to the animals. What that actually does is it takes long, complex molecules that provide nutrients and it breaks them down into smaller chunks so that when we eat them, they're more easily absorbed into our systems. An example of this that you might be familiar with is a marathon runner or an athlete eating pasta the night before a race the next day. What they were actually doing was ingesting a lot of long chain carbohydrates that each time they're broken down inside the body, they release some energy. So your long chain carbohydrates, which are called starches, are broken down into shorter chain carbohydrates called sugars. Those starches take a lot longer to be broken down in the body and they're released over time. Conversely, you have sugars, which are broken down very quickly inside the body and the energy is released quickly. Those sugars, because they're simpler molecules, are easier to break down, and all of the energy that they give you just goes woof real quick. But that same thing applies to other nutrients inside the body. It's not just your carbohydrates. If you have very complex nutrients that you're taking into your food, you want to absorb those quickly. It helps to have either them broken down in advance or something helping you break those nutrients down. And that's where your probiotics come into the equation. Just like our gut health is important, it's important to keep an eye on the gut health of your animals. That's why when we bring new livestock onto our farm, one of the most important things we look at is their poop. What's up with their poop? Is it soft? Is it hard? Is it super runny? Are they going uncontrollably? One of the big things I try to look at is if the poop is coming out in the same form that it went in. And that's not to say I'm ever seeing a pelleted feed come out the back end of an animal, but what I'm getting at is does it look like not much was broken down with the feed? You know, are bits of corn coming out? Are wheat middlings coming out? Can I see the actual grind of the food on the way out? Or has that food been processed by the animal's digestive system into something that they're turning into food for us. Are they turning it into muscle? Are they turning it into fat? Are they growing? And if that's not happening, one of the first things I'll do is I'll look to electrolytes and minerals. But the other thing I'll do is I will look at putting them on a course of probiotics, whether that's supplementing their feed with some yogurt, whether that's giving an actual probiotic drench in their water. You know, these are things that it's not unique to me. It's not something that just we do. You can buy these things at farm stores, and you know, Rooster Booster is one that we use for our chickens. In an emergency situation, you can get these probiotics into your animals to help very quickly improve their gut health. It can happen fast. You know, you essentially give them a big rush of probiotics, and hopefully it sets them up for the long run. But another thing that we do is that we look for feeds that contain probiotics, because it's just like a car. You don't want to drive that car until something goes wrong and then all of a sudden have to do a bunch of work to it. You do a lot of preventative maintenance along the way, which hopefully saves you problems in the long term. Let's take a quick look at the label on our pig food, and we'll go over some stuff real quick. In a previous video, I talked about what we look for in feed for our animals, and it wasn't just related to pigs, it was across the board. And one of the things that I mentioned was that we look for probiotics. And I actually took Purina, who's a sponsor of our channel for this season, a little bit to task on the bag they were using for their Nature's Match pig feed, where I called out and said, hey, you don't say anywhere on this bag that you've got probiotics in it, but if I go down to this label down here and look, you've got probiotics. You can see right there, dried Bacillus subtilis fermentation products. That's probiotics. And I just thought it was weird that they would put probiotics in their feed and not mention it anywhere else on the bag, because a lot of people who are raising animals are considering it an essential part of their animal's health program over the long haul. Well, we've got this beautiful new bag. You've got this, what looks like a Berkshire sow on the front and her little piglet there. Beautiful full color imagery, great new bag in terms of just looking great and meeting with the rest of the other Purina items that you'll see on the shelf. Everything matches now. As a branding guy, I like that. But you can see now they're calling out a lot more info on the front of this bag than they used to in the past. Complete wholesome plant-based nutrition for all life stages. That was something I talked about. Balanced proteins and amino acids. Again, we look for the proper protein for growth in our animals. And then right down here, you've got probiotics, Yucca Shidigera. I have no idea what that is. But you can see probiotics support optimal gut health. That is the ultimate goal of probiotics. You want to get those probiotics into your animals, because improved gut health over their entire lifespan means that the feed you feed them is going to help that animal to grow and be healthy and provide a better source of food for your family in the long run. So I got to say, good on Purina for updating your packaging, making it better reflect the work that you put into this feed. Purina does a lot of research when they're coming up with their feed rations. They're not just a big name throwing their weight around in the industry. You know, you see the red checkerboard here. There's a reason why a lot of people trust their feeds, and we've been looking at them for a long time and moving to them this year. I'm not going to give away the big reveal in our final video coming up this fall for what we thought about Purina, but so far I've had no qualms in feeding our animals Purina this year and seeing how it took them to the next level for us, at least. So thanks to Purina. The nice thing about probiotics, especially for beginning farmers, is that it's not a medication. It's not something that has to be dosed. If you're giving your animals a feed that has probiotics in it, it's naturally metered based on how much they eat. It's not something where you have to do measurements, you have to do calculations, you have to worry, are they getting too many probiotics, too little probiotics? It's a relatively straightforward approach to just improve the health of your animals overall. And if you're simply feeding cracked corn, or you're feeding a ration that doesn't have probiotics in it that you're getting from a local feed mill at like a bargain basement price, then you might want to consider moving to something with probiotics in it, because at least from what we've seen, I've fed feeds without probiotics to our pigs before. I never would have thought I'd be having an in-depth conversation with a camera about pig poop to people on the internet. The quality of our pigs' poop since moving to a probiotic-based feed last year with another brand, this year with Purina, that poop has been way better than when we'd been feeding feeds without the probiotics in it. It's just a much cleaner poop. It's more well digested, and our animals' health overall has improved. So that's kind of my take on probiotics. If you have any feelings yourself, if you have any experience, definitely let us know in the comments down below. If I was totally wrong on something and I've missed the mark, let me know as well, because I'm always trying to expand my knowledge base. I'm not an expert on this. I can just give you the reasons why I do things. As always, thanks for watching and have a great day, guys. Bye.